This presentation introduces the Civil Nexus approach to identifying, analysing, modelling and collaborating with stakeholders. Topics include using groupings to simplify engaging with appropriate stakeholders in initiatives, common pool resources, goals and targets, drivers, measures and indicators, and courses of action, strategies and response options. The scope of the platform inventory of Australian stakeholders, the value of stakeholder motivation models in clarifying context and negotiations, how a customisable operating model and governance lifecycle can be used to establish flexible and evolving ways of working within organisations and initiatives, identifying and describing capabilities required for a successful initiative, using active personas to verify the customisable operating model, and principles for polycentric adaptive governance of CPRs in complex social, ecological and technological systems sets. Civil Nexus is a platform for individuals and teams working on appropriate civil society responses to polycrisis. It promotes capabilities for autonomy and self-reliance of polycrisis response initiatives within a supportive, like-minded community of civil society organisations. It provides tools for people to act, not just out of fear of our uncertain common future, but for concern at what we have lost and hope that we might ease the coming societal transitions. You're looking at a configured version of the Sparks Enterprise Architect, Sparks EA, GUI interface for desktop and internet collaboration. Sparks EA maintains a linked and consistent database reflecting concise and precise diagrams of elements and linkages for model-based systems engineering, MBSE. Sparks EA is a comprehensive tool for iterative consultation, capability building, planning, development, delivery, operation, and review of systems and initiatives. Integrating capability building presentations material directly into the Civil Nexus GUI and platform minimises presentation work duplication. Materials in this presentation from public reports are published under the Creative Commons licensing terms of those reports. Model-derived diagrams and underlying model are copyright Civil Nexus. The Civil Nexus knowledge base holds model representations of important stakeholders with linkages to other stakeholders and common pooled resources. The stakeholders can be civil society organisations, firms, individuals or governance agencies. Operational organisations face multi-criteria solution option and optimisation problems. Pragmatic decisions have incremental trade-offs and compromises of differing scope, duration and intensity. Temporary trade-offs may introduce path dependencies, momentum, inertia, tipping points, instability and irreversibility to crisis triggers and stresses. When modelling stakeholders, there is a tension between representing stated ambition, values, principles, assessments, goals and targets, and representing contradicting realities, courses of action, strategies, response options, and drivers, indicators, measures of current and future outcomes. Many governance, regulatory, and enforcement agency stakeholders were made quasi-independent or outsourced as part of the drive to deregulation and privatisation starting in the 1980s. Publicly funded regulatory organisations are staffed by industry insiders and granted power to set and implement policy by regulation. There is substantial evidence of industry influence, regulatory capture, and accountability and transparency deficits in key regulatory domains, often accompanied by decision criteria that prioritise economic and commercial interests. This facilitates or obscures profitable, liability-limited commercial operations in resource extraction, land theft, habitat destruction, pollution, operational negligence, modern slavery, speculation, usury, rent-seeking, market collusion, commercial fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, bribery, extortion, and other antisocial activities deemed essential to the operation of transnational consumer industrial economies. Quasi-autonomous regulators have significant powers and represent powerful stakeholders. Their participation in adaptive governance alongside organisations representing public interest is necessary. A forum like Civil Nexus provides a transparency mechanism to bring stability, visibility, constructive criticism and accountability to the actions and outcomes of opaque private mini-governments. Civil Nexus Platform uses aggregation of model elements representing stakeholders to simplify identification and engagement of stakeholders for initiatives. Prominent stakeholders in Australian ecosystem restoration are aggregated in the grouping Ecosystem Restoration Stakeholders. Stakeholders are also aggregated into subgroups of ecosystem restoration advocates, enablers, opponents, and others. Others are those stakeholders who might be agnostic or have varying responses depending on context. The grouping mechanism allows lists of prospective stakeholders for initiatives and impacts, such as the IPP's high leverage intervention points, to be quickly identified and engaged in stakeholder motivation modelling and polycentric adaptive governance. A goal of the Civil Nexus platform is to gain a more complete view of public, private and civil society stakeholders in Australian common pool resources, systems and initiatives impacting those CPR. Archimate stakeholder motivation diagrams provide a concise and accessible mechanism to encourage initiative teams to negotiate and reveal context for the initiative. For example, within the context of the Lane Cove National Park Bush Care Initiative, the principal stakeholders can be identified and described. The initiative goals can be identified and described. These can align or correspond with KMBF, SDG and FCCC goals and targets. The initiative courses of action or strategies to achieve the goals can be identified and described. These can align or correspond with IPBES response options. The network of common pool resources or CPR associated with the initiative can be identified and described. The CPR of the stakeholders for the initiative, which may be shared with other initiatives, can be identified and described. We can see the group for Lane Cove National Park threatened species listed in the traceability panel. We have the grouping of threatened species. We also have threatened ecological communities listed in the traceability panel, invasive species, the geophysical regionalisations for INCRA, and geofabric and IBRA. We also see a set of targets which are aligned with the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework targets. We see some bush care goals which are associated with sustainable development goals in ecosystems, and also some bush care courses of action and strategies which have been adopted by the initiative. 7 key lessons emerge from research on subsidiarity and nested organisations dealing with distributed governance at a range of geographical and domain scales. These can be summarised as follows. 1. Allocate tasks across levels in accordance with the principle of subsidiarity. That is, decentralise each task to the lowest level with capability and capacity to conduct it satisfactorily. 2. The capacity at a given level to conduct a task satisfactorily depends on whether all actors with an interest in the task are represented at that level. 3. The capacity at a given level to perform a task satisfactorily depends on whether there is sufficient access on that level to all the capacities needed to achieve that standard of performance. 4. The capacity at a given level to perform a task satisfactorily can often be enhanced through strategies seeking to strengthen access to the requisite capabilities. Subsidiarity obliges actors at higher levels to explore such opportunities before ruling out the possibilities of decentralising tasks to lower levels. Meanwhile, it cautions against over-optimistic expectations of how quickly lower-level capacities to cope with decentralisation can be developed. 5. Actors tend to participate in activities designed to build their capacities only when they expect participation to help further their goals. Capacity building efforts are therefore unlikely to succeed unless the target population has secure rights to benefit from the capacities developed. 6. Units assigned tasks in accordance with the subsidiarity principle should be allowed as much autonomy as possible in how they decide to conduct those tasks. 7. Despite any rhetoric to the contrary, government actors often perceive a vested interest in resisting authentic application of the subsidiarity principle. Their success in resisting derives just as much from the fiscal dominance and cognitive hegemony as it does from formalised powers. When authentic subsidiarity does occur, this is often due to strategic bottom-up efforts to overcome the resistance by mobilising a bandwagon of support from higher levels. The governance life cycles for initiatives are necessarily experimental, iterative, and incremental. Civil Nexus provides elements and linkages for a template or meta-model operating model for collaborative initiatives. Initiatives can reuse, combine, and customize elements of the meta-model to evolve the most effective operating model for their volatile initiative context. The Archimate motivation diagram shows a partial and high-level view of this operating model. The operating model is elaborated traceably to successively detailed layers of canonical specification of an operating model. The template operating model engages carefully identified stakeholders and initiative teams in defined activities of value generation for each coordinated change or initiative plateau. The generated values are negotiated co-development of viable, feasible, and desirable goals for incremental change, plans to effectively coordinate and deliver the goals for incremental change, outcome delivery and measurement for incremental outcomes improvements, initiative feedback, review, learning for innovation, and incremental process improvements. To execute value streams and deliver value, organisations require individuals and teams with knowledge, skills, judgment, orderly process, governance, and delivery capabilities. The Civil Nexus template operating model identifies a diverse range of capabilities required by stakeholders executing a delivery iteration for an initiative. The capabilities can be used across multiple value streams. These abstract concepts and elements are traceably elaborated to identification and detailed description of the specific knowledge, skills, judgment, orderly process, governance, deliverables, and delivery capabilities required. With capability mapping, an initiative can deliberatively acquire and build necessary capabilities to increase effectiveness of initiative delivery. In any initiative involving the collaboration of organisations and individuals, educated, trained and experienced individuals hold the deep knowledge, skills, judgment, orderly process, governance and delivery capabilities. Organisations do not have capabilities. Individuals and teams have capabilities, so the teams and team members are not fungible. Capabilities are destroyed when teams and individuals leave the initiative without careful and orderly transition to replacement teams and individuals. If initiatives and organisations cannot recruit, train and retain suitably capable individuals, they will fail to deliver goals and outcomes. In the Civil Nexus platform, we represent identified bundles of capabilities as actor personas to help us elaborate and validate the multi-tier operating model to ensure that organisations can recruit and build essential capabilities, elaborate system usage scenarios to ensure that the system can support initiative teams to plan iterations, execute value streams, implement strategies, and deliver outcomes. Allow us to design the operating model to successfully recruit, train, and retain capable team members. Careful design can ensure that organisational structures and dynamics promote goal alignment, personal autonomy, professional growth, team belonging, and achievement of worthwhile outcomes. The diagram shows the core actor personas for the Civil Nexus template operating model. There are also a number of non-core and public persona actor groups required for the operating model. If we look at an actor persona for Aaron the agriculturalist, we can see that he is associated with a number of capability sub-areas: food security and systems, information operations, public engagement, social and physical science research, etc. And he also depends on a number of motivating values. So we can see that, like all humans, he's motivated by Maslow's pyramid of human needs, the modified modern form of that, and also the commercial and societal values that we have chosen to align this actor stakeholder with for representation purposes. If you found the presentation interesting and enjoyable, comment and like the presentation and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate constructive comments and suggestions. What are we doing right? What should we do better or more? What should we change or do less? You'll find new presentations in different aspects of the Civil Nexus platform as they are posted. If you're interested in exploring the Civil Nexus platform, contact us via the comments to request access to a personal use, read-only copy of the repository that you can virus scan and browse on your desktop. You'll need to visit the Spark Systems website to download and install the free Spark Systems EA Reader to access the models. If you're interested in collaborating on the platform for initiatives to address polycrisis, contact us via the comments to request edit permissions and access. We're interested to make your polycrisis mitigation initiatives of civil society groups visible to others. We can facilitate video conferences to help you document and link your initiatives and stakeholders in the Civil Nexus platform. We can provide basic written advice on configuring software, system, and platform connections. The platform tools are mostly free and open source software, or FOSS, suitable for Windows and Linux computers. But the editing-enabled versions of Spark's Enterprise Architect are a commercial product with a range of pricing and capability options. Even if you're not interested in Civil Nexus, get involved with civil society organisations interested in big picture solutions to polycrisis mitigation and adaptation. Continue hoping that BAU multilateral coordination will provide adaptation for polycrisis. Multilateralism is opposed by autocrats, well-funded private industry groups, and their captured legislators, regulators, and jurists. Progress on achieving required outcomes needs to happen 5 times faster than current rates to avoid the deepest societal collapses.